30 days. I marked them on a calendar like a prisoner counting sentence, except I was counting up to freedom, not down to release. Week 1 was just no. No to everything that didn't build me back. No to their texts, which became increasingly angry, then sad, then threatening. No to mutual friends who carried messages. They're worried about you. You're being cruel. No one will ever love you like they did. Especially no to that last one. Especially no to that. Week 2, the old boss called. Not my romantic partner. My actual boss from the job I neglected for the relationship. Quick favor. They said, just need your eye on this proposal. You're the only one who can do it. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, feeling the old pull. Asterisk needed. Useful. Valuable because available. Asterisk, I remember the layoff conversation from the corporate story. The "you're just available" line. And I said, I can't. I'm working on something important. They didn't understand. They were offended. They hung up. And I finished Module 1 of my certification. Then Module 2, the work that was actually mine. Week 3, I launched the beta, the side project, the thing that had lived in draft folder purgatory for 8 months. It wasn't perfect. It was messy and vulnerable and completely, utterly mine. And people responded, not because I was managing their feelings, but because I was offering something real, something I had built while I wasn't busy being everyone else's emotional employee. Week 4, I had a job interview, not for a role that would need me, for a position that wanted what I could create. And when they asked about my strengths, I didn't talk about my helpfulness. I didn't mention my availability. I talked about the project, the certification, the boundaries that had made it all possible. The interviewer said, "You seem focused, like you know exactly who you are." I almost laughed. I almost cried. I said, I'm learning. But here's what they don't tell you about boundaries. They're lonely. Some people stop calling. Friends who'd only ever known me as helpful, who'd experienced our relationship as transactional, drifted away when I stopped transacting. I spent more than one night wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake, if the cage was better than the void. Then I'd remember. Asterisk, you cannot find yourself in someone else's reflection. You'll only ever see their version of you. Asterisk, and I'd open my journal. And I'd write one true thing. Just one. Today I wanted something. Today I chose something. Today I was real. That was enough. That was everything. 6 months later. Not a dramatic transformation. Not a movie ending. But a real one. The certification was complete. The project had users. Actual humans using something I'd built while I wasn't busy managing someone else's emotions. I'd taken a position that paid better, respected my boundaries, and didn't require me to be on all times. And I was dating, or trying to, which meant I was learning to be chosen for who I was, not for who I could become for someone else. It was terrifying. I was difficult. I had opinions. I took up space. And some people didn't like it, which was the point. I was finally visible enough to be rejected for being real, rather than accepted for being convenient. Then came the moment I didn't expect. An email from them. Not, "I miss you." Not, "I'm sorry." But, "I need your help with something. You're the only one who understands the situation. Just a quick favor. For old time's sake." I read it 3 times. I felt the old pull, needed, chosen, special, and I recognized it for what it was. Not love, not connection, just consumption. They didn't miss me. They missed the mirror. They missed a resource. They missed what I could do for them. I didn't respond. That was my response. My absence. My unnecessariness. My final, complete refusal to be property. There's a proverb I live by now. Asterisk, the bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists. Asterisk, I spent years thinking I was being strong by accommodating, by adapting, by becoming whatever they needed. But real strength, the kind that survives storms, is knowing who you are and refusing to become someone else, even when it's easier, even when it costs you love, especially when it costs you that kind of love. I ran into them, eventually, at a coffee shop. They looked smaller than I remembered, or Maybe I'd just grown. They said, "You seem different. More focus." I said, I finally figured out what I'm worth. And it's not determined by how much I'm needed. They didn't understand. They never would. That was their tragedy, not mine. The paradox, the beautiful, brutal paradox, is this: when I stopped being available to everyone, I finally became valuable to someone, myself. And from that place, from that solid ground of knowing who I am and what I want, I could finally build something real. Something that doesn't require my disappearance. Something that actually lasts. So here's what I learned. The expensive way. The hard way. The way that almost killed me. First, being liked is not the same as being valued. Being needed is not the same as being loved. One consumes. The other witnesses. One takes. The other sees. If you're with someone who needs you to be smaller, quieter, more manageable, they don't love you. They love your utility. And utility has an expiration date. Second, the hollow crown is heavy because it's made of your missing pieces. Every part of yourself you abandoned to keep them happy. Every boundary you dissolved. Every desire you denied. That's the weight you're carrying. And it doesn't get lighter. You just get stronger at pretending it doesn't hurt. Third, you cannot build anything great while you're constantly available to fix everyone else's mediocre. Your dreams, your projects, yourself, they require protection. They require the discipline of no, not to be mean, not to be cruel, but to protect your yes for what actually matters. Fourth, discipline isn't saying no to be difficult. It's saying no to protect your yes for what matters. Every yes to their needs was a no to myself. And I gave away so many yes that I forgot what I was actually saying yes to. My own erasure. My own disappearance. My own slow death. Fifth, and this is the one that still wakes me up at night. People don't respect what's always available. They respect what's scarce and valuable. I thought being everyone's go-to person made me essential. It just made me exhausted. The day I became selective about my time was the day I became actually valuable. To myself first, and eventually to people who could see the real me. Final wisdom. I thought being their everything made me irreplaceable. It just made me empty. The day I became unnecessary to them was the day I finally became real. And being real, being difficult, being particular, being occasionally wrong and still standing. That's the only foundation anything real could be built on. The crown I wore was an honor. It was a collar. And the day I took it off, I finally learned to breathe. So I need to ask you, and I need you to be honest with yourself, because I wasn't honest with myself for years. Are you wearing a crown or a collar? Are you property or owner? Are you being consumed or are you being loved?